Hey, what's going on, guys? Guru here. I'm just sitting in the Energy Fitness office. I want to go over a couple things today. I want to kind of piggyback on my last video talking about hypertrophy and hyperplasia. Now I want to talk specifically about muscle fibers. I get a lot of questions on the daily about um, whether or not people should be training according to what muscle fiber they have primarily. So if I'm mostly type 2 fiber, should I be exclusively training type 2 fibers, or should I be mixing it up? And we're going to go into what exactly type 1, type 2A, type 2B muscle fibers are, how to train them, what their functions are, what they run off of as far as energy is concerned. And yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Much love. Yeah, let me hit you with this information. So, first off, let's just talk the basics of muscle fibers. Usually, the go-to explanation for muscle fibers is okay, so sprinters are type 2 explosive muscle fiber types, and long distance cross country runners are type 1, primarily type 1 slow twitch fibers, endurance muscle fibers. So that's the kind of layman's terms. Goo Nation. I caught some really good feedback from my last video, like I said, talking about hypertrophy and hyperplasia. And a couple of questions went like this. Well, bro, what muscle fiber should I be training in order to get the biggest, to get the strongest, to really maximize my workouts? If you're saying there's a difference in the muscle fibers, what muscle fiber should I be training? What should I be focusing on? So that's a great question, and let's get to that. All right, family. So let me hit you with some more in-depth kind of scientific features and characteristics of each muscle fiber. So let's go over type 1, type 2A, and type 2B. So here's some notes I took. So type 1, or slow twitch fibers. These muscle fibers have high concentrations of mitochondria and myoglobin, and although they are smaller than the fast twitch fibers, they're surrounded by more capillaries. This combination supports their capacity for aerobic metabolism and fatigue resistance, particularly important for prolonged submaximal exercise activities like jogging or biking or swimming. Type 1 fibers produce less force. They're slower to produce maximal tension, so that would be due to the lower myosin and ATPase activity compared to type 2 fibers, but they are able to maintain longer term contractions, key for stabilization and postural control. So yeah, that's one thing to be considered. Those type 1 fibers are really kind of keeping you upright over the course of a day. Moving on, fast twitch type 2 fibers. Like I said, there's two types, so let's talk a little bit about that. Here's some more notes. Our fast twitch muscle fibers are further divided into type 2X and type 2A, or type 2A and type 2B, whatever. Typically, these have lower concentrations of mitochondria, myoglobin, and capillaries compared to our slow twitch fibers, and are quicker to fatigue. These larger sized fibers are able to produce a greater and quicker force, and very important for power movements. So, type 2X, these fibers produce the most force, but are incredibly inefficient based on their high myosin ATPase activity, low oxidative capacity, and heavy reliance on anaerobic metabolism. So type 2A fibers now, these are known as intermediate fibers, or a mix of type 1 and type 2X with comparable tension. So they're able to use both aerobic and anaerobic energy systems. Short of having a muscle biopsy done, an individual really can't get an exact gauge on the ratio between type 1 or type 2 muscle fibers that they have. So, but what they can assume is that there's almost an equal part of type 1s and type 2s as you go throughout the body. Depending on who you are genetically, you might be predisposed to have more type 1s or type 2s, but that would be more, rather than going to get that tested, you should do some physical tests, some guess and check find out some of your physical strong points, and then you can evaluate what muscle fiber you think you may or may not have from there. How can you typically tell if someone's a fast twitch or a slow twitch muscle fiber type individual? So here's a couple notes I took. So fast twitch dominant people are usually better at sprinting opposed to long distance running. They're predisposed to have a little better explosive power. Guys will have a vertical jump higher than 23 inches. And now they'll be able to do less than 7 reps of 80% of their 1 rep maximum. So keep that in mind. So let's talk more about that 1 rep maximum, but for slow twitch athletes now. Slow twitch athletes can do 7 to 9 reps of their 80% 1 rep max typically. So a little more aerobic capabilities there. So fast twitch muscle athletes are usually going to have longer rest periods in between sets, especially if they're really training those type 2 muscle fibers. And then slow twitch guys and gals will have a shorter rest in between. They're not going to be able to produce as much force, but they can recover quicker and get back to whatever type 1 activity they're doing. I think the best way to determine whether someone is type 2 or type 1 heavy is to just pay attention to what sports or what activities they're good at. If you're good at running, cycling, swimming, you know, long distance stuff, you might be more of a type 1. And if you're more of an explosive guy or girl, you know, you might be better basketball, sprinting, short distances, you're probably type 2. If one were to want to improve their type 1 muscle fiber count or the capabilities of their type 1 muscle fibers, they would do low intensity, long distance, short rest style training, style movement, style exercises in order to train those type 1 fibers. On the other end, if one was looking to train those type 2X or those really explosive muscle fibers, they would be doing maximal effort movements, sprints, jumps, very short explosive sets with a little bit longer rest in between. With that said, resistance training of any kind is known to build both type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. Fam, like I said before, we're pretty much predisposed genetically to have a certain makeup of type 1 and type 2 fibers throughout the muscles in our body. But if you were really hell-bent on changing the ratio of muscle fibers, maybe adding some type 1 or adding type 2, whatever it may be, over years of training, it is possible. The bad news with that is, like I said, it takes years, and at most, maybe you can get a 10% change in muscle fiber. There's that creme brulee knowledge. So it's really hard to change what muscle fiber you are composed of. You can train for it, and it is possible, but it takes years of training. I know a lot of you guys out there are interested in getting big, getting yoked, and you're like, oh shoot, what I do know is that type 2 fiber guys, they end up growing faster. They're more predisposed to be yoked. They could get yoked faster than the type 1 guys out there. Yeah, that's true. There's a piece of truth there, but the fact is, both type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers can grow, and the best way to grow is not to hit a certain rep range or intensity range. It's to mix in light, heavy, moderate, high rep, low rep, all kinds of muscle movements and movement styles for your muscles to get the most possible hypertrophy or size out of what you've already got. If you're just trying to bulk up and get big, muscle fiber type really doesn't matter. Like I said, if you're just going for size, muscle fiber type really doesn't matter. So here's some notes that I took that kind of go along with that notion. So slow twitch muscle fibers are almost as strong as fast twitch fibers. They just take a fraction of a second longer to kick into gear. A typical rep of heavy barbell training is going to take a second or longer, which is plenty of time for both fast and slow twitch muscle fibers to pitch in, although it's going to be primarily fast twitch fibers. There's going to be a lot of type 2 engagement as well, or type 1 engagement as well. Thus, even during your most intense sets, you'll be using both fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. When it comes to muscle growth, muscle fiber is very unimportant. It's true that slow twitch fibers don't grow as much as fast twitch fibers, but they can still grow enough to make a significant difference in your physique. So that's why a lot of these bodybuilders say, yeah, train heavy, train light, train low intensity, train high intensity, get as much hypertrophy out of your muscles as possible. For some of us, we're more power, we're explosive, we're different kinds of athletes where we're not interested in the largest amount of hypertrophy. Myself, I go more for function rather than size. But for those of you guys that are really training for size, train your type 1s, train your type 2s as well. Knowledge power is Guru here. Guru knows knowledge, Guru knows love. Thanks for tuning in and subscribing to my knowledge and my love. Guys, typically you would think training your type 1 muscles, so very aerobic style of training, is best for burning fat mass. But I have a piece of information here that says slightly differently. So researchers at Boston University School of Medicine have found that increasing the mass or size of the type 2 muscle fibers will lead to a significant decrease in fat mass. If you're looking to burn fat, if you're looking to shred down, it's not all about just doing cardio, just doing high rep stuff. Lift some heavy weights, do some explosive movements, because that will do some good as far as shedding the fat, trimming down, tightening up a little bit. Alright, gurus, I got one more note here, and it has to do with age as a factor for what muscle fiber types we're composed of. So, as we age, there's a loss in lean muscle mass, which is a decline in our fast twitch fibers, especially the type 2X. But there's also an increase in our slow twitch fibers. As you guys remember, the fast twitch fibers are larger in size than the slow twitch. So this loss of lean muscle mass can contribute to age-related metabolic dysfunctions, body composition changes, and even increased risk of falls. So obviously resistance training, weight training, explosive style training can combat those lean muscle mass losses as we age. Gurus, thank you so much for tuning in. Much love to Energy Fitness, much love to Fuel. As always, thanks for subscribing, thanks for watching, thanks for all the awesome feedback. I really appreciate you guys. Man, it's Guru here, it's White Shaman here, aka Young Miyagi. Thank you so much, man. Much love, much hugs to you guys. I appreciate it. At any time, guys, reach out to me, email me, text me, those of you that know my number or can find my number. Man, I would love to hear from you guys. Questions, pick my brain. That's what I'm here for. I think this stuff is fun, so seek me out, man. Yeah, so a few of you guys might know that I've been whipping up a library at my house. Yeah, so in the back of my little fitness area, I've got a library now, lots of books, lots of artwork, a little shag rug down there. I got my bongo, I got my didgeridoo. It's a little think tank. So I'm probably gonna start filming some videos from there. I can't wait to show it to you guys. It's about 90% complete. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for a Guru library. Stay tuned for a little think tank session with me, and holler at me. You guys come down and vibe in my library, man. It's comfortable. It's a really comfortable place to vibe and get your mind right.